Cannot stress this enough. If you are having mental health issues, do not use this video as advice or like, hey, if you have mental health, you can stay in the military or whatever. I do not know the medical laws for this. I don't know the rules and regulations for it. This is just what happened to me, all right? If you are struggling with mental health, talk to your corpsman, talk to your chaplain, talk to Military One Source, right? Use the resources the military has in front of you. But again, I am not qualified to give mental health advice for military personnel. I don't know the rules and regulations and how that will affect you in your career, in your circumstances. All right, I have to stress that very clearly off the rip. So this is going to be part 4 of my little mini series of recounting my whole Navy career. Got the right in the rain with my notes inside of it. Currently right now I am in the Philippines, chilling out in my apartment in Cebu City, just waiting for my laundry to get done. So I figured now would be the perfect time to work on the next part of my video. So part 4 today, we're going to talk about orders from Guam, briefly talk about Field Med West. We're going to talk about some mental health things that came up. Hopefully you watched the last video, so just to recap, quit BUDS, got re-rated as a corpsman, went to Naval Hospital Guam, worked in pediatrics in the ER, and now we're kind of towards the tail end of Guam, getting ready to PCS over to my next duty station. So PCS stands for Permanent Change of Station. Basically every 2 to 3 years as a corpsman at least, you'll pick new orders to go somewhere new. While I was in Guam, I tried out for the Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman Pipeline, or SARC for shortened. Gonna preface again, this video is not going to be advice of how to prepare for recon, what recon is like, this, that, the third. This is purely a recount of my service in the Navy. So again, do not expect a lot of information regarding to how I trained for it or what I did to prepare for that. There's plenty of other YouTube channels out there and things that can give better advice on that. So I tried out for the reconnaissance pipeline. There's a guy named like Nick Cosmaltos, Nick something. I'll link him in the description below. Reconnaissance guy. He had this really rad 12-week program to train for reconnaissance. Did a bunch of ruck running, did a bunch of running, cami swimming, some light weightlifting. So yeah, if you just follow his program, you know, it'll get you ready for that pipeline. I had, got the letters of recommendation from my pediatrics doctors, letters of rec from my leadership. I went to the NSW quarterdeck in Guam, talked to some SEALs and divers there to get my PST and dive test done. Passed both those. The dive test is more like a physical for it, So I got all that taken care of, and I submitted a package to go for the reconnaissance pipeline. At the time, I was still very hell-bent on going back into the Special Forces, Special Warfare, NSW community. So I had submitted a package, and it got approved. Awesome. Now, for those of you who are corpsmen, you'll know the name Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Ramsey was like the sea school gatekeeper. He's an absolute menace. You guys, if you're a corpsman, you're very familiar with that name. So about 3 months from PCSing, I had received an email from him saying that my orders weren't properly funded and my package wasn't complete. So at that point, my orders now changed to being needs of the Navy. I talked to my command master chief and career counselor, and they really didn't give me much help in regards to doing the Special Forces stuff. In fact, they said, well, you got all these requirements done. You're motivated and intelligent. Why not consider going to like pharmacy school or rad tech school? And then that was the moment I realized that the Navy, like, they care about you, but higher ups and the career counselors are concerned about the mission of the Navy, and they needed bodies for those sea schools. I almost laughed, when they talked about it, because that's not what I joined the military for, right? I joined to do the stuff you saw in the recruiting commercials. So they weren't much help. I called my detailer, and then my detailer said, hey, we have orders to Camp Pendleton with 5th Regiment. Want to take those? I was like, sure. That's the infantry. I'll get a chance to travel for reconnaissance while I'm there. Boom, I'll take those orders. So I PCS'd from Naval Hospital to Guam to Field Med West over at Camp Pendleton at Devil Dock Hall. I forget what area it's in, but Del Mar Beach, basically. And same thing, like I said before, Field Med West is designed for just getting bodies into the infantry. So I was physically overprepared for it. I don't have much advice for sailors in the Navy who are going to Field Med. This stuff is not hard, in my opinion. You show up, you do what you're told, you put the ruck on, you do the PRT. Like, it's not that deep, man. Now, unfortunately, my luck was not going to, it just kept getting worse and worse. Crushed the PRT, crushed the first test. I was a squad lead, things were looking up. Over the weekend, if you look at my thumb here, I don't know if it'll show on camera, but I have like a small scar there. I had received a going away gift. It was this rad knife from Guam. And as I was pulling it out, it was stuck inside like a Kydex holster. And the blade was dual edged, so when I pulled out this way, and I lacerated my thumb. Basically, my thumb was here, and it was hanging on by a thread. It was shooting out blood. Luckily, I was in a corpsman school, so I was able to get taken care of quickly. Went to the ER, got some emergency sutures, and then I had to go see an orthopedics surgeon. Did a bunch of tests on it, and it turns out I had lacerated the nerves and tendons in my thumb. So my thumb was just stuck in this position. I couldn't flex it, couldn't move it at all. So I got emergency surgery on that, and I was placed on limited duty to get my thumb rehabbed. And that basically entailed about 6 months of occupational therapy. Had a cast around the first 2 months, had to do thumb exercises. When the cast was removed, I had pretty bad atrophy in my forearms, and I had no grip strength at all. So I had to rehab my left hand and arm again for quite a while. When I got injured, I got placed into SAP platoon. SAP platoon stands for Students Awaiting Training. And I'm going to sound mean here, but if you fail within the first week of field med, usually that means you failed your PRT, so you're fat, out of shape, or you failed the first test. And the first test at field med is stupid easy. Like, it's just Marine Corps history. They give you a bunch of ditties to memorize. Like, it's not hard. But that was the people I was around with now. And then the instructor staff there, they treated us like we were stupid. And you just did a lot of working parties. And I did not join the military for that. I was being demeaned by the instructors there. My peer group was just not, I don't want to call my peer group, just the people I was with in this platoon were not positive influences to be around. So now you can understand, at 20 years old, my father had passed away when I was in the military. My high school sweetheart, we were no longer together. My dream of becoming a SEAL, I had quit on that. And then my dream of going back to Special Forces didn't work out because of the C school thing where Mr. Ramsey. And then this injury at field med, like, this was my last chance in my head to go back, at least do the infantry and do the stuff I joined the military for, and that didn't work out. And oh boy, this is always the hard part, talking about this. All those culminating events, my identity as a young man was basically stripped away from me. So I tried to commit suicide. I tried to overdose on Benadryl and hang myself. Pretty gnarly thing to say out loud. Pretty, Wild West. I don't want to call it Wild West. Yeah, it's gnarly talking about it out loud. It's a pretty intense thing to do and consider. But that's what I did. As I was going through the act, I got quite terrified. Called the emergency, or not emergency room, called 911. I got the help, I got brought to the ER, spent a couple days in the ICU, spent some time in the psych ward, and sort of, worked through those feelings. And I did extensive therapy through those first couple months. So now I'm limited duty, and I got orders to Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton. And I worked in the emergency room at Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton while on limited duty. And that was not an enjoyable experience. Being on limited duty, the whole mission of that is to get you back in shape for the military, but it puts your career on hold. So it was basically impossible to promote or do any kind of extra collaterals to build a good promotion package. So my career was on standstill, and I was not a fan of Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton's ER because it was not a trauma bay. It was more of like an urgent care. So we dealt with like a lot of dependents and a lot of Marines who felt like they weren't being treated well by their corpsmen. And I just wasn't doing the things I was doing at the trauma bay like I was in Guam. So I got very disgruntled very quickly. And then I was working night shift and doing my therapy appointments and my occupational therapy appointments. Like I felt like I wasn't in the military at that point. Like I felt like I was just working a regular job and doing these appointments, and my career was on standstill. So Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton was very spiritually draining for me. I guess what kept me motivated was that I still knew I was going to stay in the military and try out to go back to the infantry or something. But it took a lot of mental fortitude to be good at my job at Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton and maintain my fitness. And then when COVID kicked off too, all the orders got halted, and then I was working in the ER during COVID at night shift. So you can imagine the stress from that. Again, I don't really have any cool stories from Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton's ER. I'm very fortunate. I worked night shifts. So I had a good group of civilian nurses and really awesome coworkers. But the leadership was just stupid and non-caring. I didn't have a good chief. My LPO, he was there, but he was just there. He was filling a spot. My ALPO, she was very incompetent. And anytime I tried to progress my career or do things outside of the ER, it was basically, well, Edwards, you're on limited duty, so we don't want to give that position to somebody. So I just could not frickin' progress for almost a year. I was there from October 2019 to October 2020. And I could not progress my career. I was doing these mental health appointments. I was facing a medical separation. All right, I'm back. I had to pause there just because I was kind of losing the plot. So like I said, I was facing medical separation from the military because of the suicide attempt and the thumb injury. And two things from that. I did the occupational therapy. I started focusing on that, putting a lot of effort into making my hand better. And then talking to my therapist, we really worked together. And I don't want to say I convinced him necessarily, but I made it very clear that what I had done not necessarily was a mistake, but more of, I don't know the word. I don't want to call it a mistake. It's a thing that happened. But we worked through it. And we determined that me leaving the military was going to be more of a detriment than me staying inside of the military. I had to do a lot of hard work in therapy. I don't really feel comfortable opening up about that on video, but I went through very extensive therapy, and that would continue on later on in my career, which we'll talk about later on. The mental health aspect, trying to commit suicide. I am not the right person to give mental health advice. I've done extensive therapy. I use a lot of the TTPs, tactics, tips, procedures, real time. And in a way, going through therapy at 20, 21 years old, I learned a lot about myself and a lot of things that I was carrying. Not that I had a bad childhood or anything, but just my views on myself, and learning how to cope better with stress. Give me a second to think about this. Do I think therapy is the end all be all of making yourself better mentally? No, it's a key component. And one of my biggest takeaways from doing therapy is that you can't just do therapy. You can't just take the medications. You can't just David Goggins your way through it, right? It's all encompassing. There's the therapy aspect. There's the medication aspect. I didn't do meds for too long. It was kind of a quick 3-month trial period of it. I didn't find them to be helpful to me. Journaling has helped me a lot. I have a lot of journals with both positive and negative writing in them. Again, taking fitness and your diet seriously. It's all encompassing. You can't just do one specific thing. And again, these things that I learned from therapy would help me later down the line once I go greenside. I don't regret, this is crazy saying this. it's very uncomfortable talking about this on camera because I'm talking to strangers, and even my friends who are watching this, like I've had a lot of long conversations in the barracks rooms, at the chow hall, private conversations. So it's not doing justice to what I felt and dealt with. And I'm not here for people like to feel sorry for me or like, you know, look at me a different way. It's just what happened during my career. And I just want to express a lot of gratitude. I had good therapists, good coworkers. I don't like the term shipmate. I think that's derogatory. Good friends, good leadership that worked through these feelings with me. I don't want this Navy video to turn into a big like mental health therapy thing. Again, I'm not qualified. I have no credential other than, dude, I was a corpsman and I have some tools in there. I'm not the right person for that. But that was the next like 3 years of my Navy career, Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton in Rhode Island, were very spiritually challenging because what I was doing in the military was so opposed to what my idea of the military was. And I struggled with that for a very long time. And obviously I still had a very fulfilling career in the military. It was just a very long 3 years. Again, I need to stress this. I cannot stress this enough. If you are having mental health issues, do not use this video as advice or like, hey, if you have mental health, you can stay in the military or whatever. I do not know the medical laws for this. I don't know the rules and regulations for it. This is just what happened to me, all right? If you are struggling with mental health, talk to your corpsman, talk to your chaplain, talk to Military One Source, right? Use the resources the military has in front of you. But again, I am not qualified to give mental health advice for military personnel. I don't know the rules and regulations and how that will affect you in your career, in your circumstances. All right, I have to stress that very clearly off the rip. I think I'm actually going to post this part at the beginning of the video as well. All right, this is just the situation that occurred to me during the military. I know we kind of ended on a very intense note of my career. The next video, we're going to talk about my time at Rhode Island, talk about me re-enlisting, going to SEER school, and then probably an introduction to my time with Greenside. And then Greenside is going to be a lot of parts as well now that I'm talking out loud about it. So again, thank you for watching these videos so far. I really appreciate people like watching these and responding to it. It's been very fun recording it. And I think it's neat because my career is not the so-called like typical stuff you see on YouTube or podcasts. Like I have this is kind of just like the average military experience for corpsmen. Like you don't always get to do the cool Greenside stuff. You're working at hospitals, things happen, and I'm just recounting that myself. So thank you for watching. Again, the same YouTube things as usual. Like, subscribe, comment, and then stay tuned for the next video.